Sorry, I didn't do a live yesterday. Uh, Time got ahead of me, so when time gets ahead of me, if I'm a if I'm a sacrifice either my fitness routine or live streaming, I'm going to sacrifice live streaming because fitness is life for me. So I'm always going to do that. If I'm running behind in time, I'm going to still stake out my fitness for the day. Um, Everything else be damned, well, other than my wife, of course. But aside from, my fitness, which heavily involves running every day, and my wife, everything else will be damned if I can't find time for anything else. So I apologize for that. But the topic that I was going to do yesterday, I'm going to do that today. And this may be a short broadcast because I do plan on hitting the gym within maybe an hour or two. So, having said all that, my previous live streams, I've done some things like ask me a philosophy question, and I did a part. I think I did that twice, um, or three times. I can't remember if it was twice or thrice, but I did that a few times, and I decided this time I'm gonna put on another hat. Instead of putting on my philosophy hat today, let's put on my psychology hat. So today, ask me anything about psychology, guys. And of course, if there's no responses, as I always tell you at the beginning of every live stream, if I get no comments or responses, then I'll just end this early. But today I'm leaving it open. That is the specific topic, so I won't be taking comments or questions on any other topic but that. So today is ask me any psychology question. You can also throw in philosophy questions as well. But I've done previous live streams just talking about philosophical topics. So today let's just do psychological topics. All right, Serpico, you're on timeout, sir. Um, there's actually several here, people, James Gee. Whether you can see it or not, I can see the number of people in the stream. Um, so, like I said, I've done like two or three live streams where I said you can ask me any philosophical topic. So today, I'm gonna say let's ask me any sort of psychological topic, and I want to make two provisos on that. One is this is not a format for you to ask me about your psychiatric disorders. I am not a diagnostician, um, nor nor a licensed clinician, so I cannot neither diagnose you nor give you a prognosis, and I don't do armchair diagnoses. People who do that are pseudo psychologists. Um, I'm gonna anyone ask me about some sort of psychiatric disorder, I'm just gonna refer you to go see your doctor and make an appointment to see a mental health clinician through your primary care uh, doctor. The second proviso is I am not a professor. I'm just a psychology nerd. I have a background in this from both undergrad and grad school, but I am not a psychology professor. So I'm just a psychology nerd. So those are my two provisos. One is that I won't be diagnosing any mental health disorders, and two, I am not I am not a professor. So just a psychology nerd. Other than that, let's head straight into it, guys. So again, the topic, what's up, J.A.C, is psychology. Like, ask me any sort of psychological question, but not about anyone's mental health disorders. I can't armchair diagnose anyone. Um, and again, I'm not a professor. I don't have a doctorate. Maybe sometime soon, but not today. And I'm drinking my iced coffee, my favorite, guys. So again, if you want to buy me a coffee, like I've had a few generous people do over the last few weeks, feel free to find that link in my description, and you can buy me a coffee. Hats off to Blondie, Frodo, and a few other people who bought me coffees within the last few weeks. So this is for them. Um, and I'm gonna start answer you guys questions, but I just want to also say, when I say ask me any psychological question, that doesn't just mean psychopathology. That is a facet of psychology that most people are intrigued with, but I don't mean just psychopathology. I mean also, like, we can talk about stuff dealing with neuroscience, economics, sociology, linguistics. They all have parts that tie into psychology, or just behavioral research, cognitive science, though all those sorts of things. So let me get into to you questions. All right. And mind you, I'm always going to be a few minutes behind in the comment thread because I'm reading them, so I can make sure I give everyone their due attention. All right. Sorry for my voice. It's kind of hot outside. It's a little dehydrated. Daniel Lemma says, what do you think is the social psychological impact of echo chambers on social platforms? What do you mean a social psychological impact? You mean on society at large? Um, for one thing, it's not everyone acts like social media is new in its current digital form. It's new, but this isn't new in itself. This has been going on in like newspaper columns and magazine columns for like the last 100 years or so. The difference is now is being that it's digital and everyone has access to like a smartphone or a tablet or computer. Everyone can get involved, so it has caused some issues. I think what we're seeing is, a lot of people lacking social skills because they're glued to these devices. And I mean, this is why people from older generations, Gen X and baby boomers, kind of make fun of, yeah, and I'm gonna include older millennials, Gen X, baby boomers. This is why we kind of all make fun of younger folks, the younger millennials, the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, because um, I think they're so um, I don't know, tied into these devices that they they're having problems in the real world with social interaction. So that's the that's the impact, if that's what you're asking about social platforms. However, it has both its ups and downs. Like, we're more connected than ever, which can be a good thing. Like, when you need to reach out to people in times of crises or um, emergencies, staying in touch with people from all corners of the globe, being able to stay in touch with people even though you're no longer within a physical vicinity to be with them. I wish we had, the web when I was a kid. So it has its pluses and minuses. Then, but like basically everything there was a virtue or a vice prior to, you know, the World Wide Web going commercial in '94 is still the same vices and virtues we have now. I think it's just magnified through these social media platforms. Bizwise says, hello, how many trees have you planted in your life? Well, that's not a psychological question, Bizwise. Let's kind of stick with psychology, but as far as I can remember, like maybe one or two, like saplings. So, John says, with your degree, have you learned you have any personality disorders? No, I haven't. Plus, self-diagnosis in psychology is not recommended. just about everyone. So there's a phenomena in medical school where first year medical students think they have every disease that they start learning about, and it's a similar phenomenon that happens with like sophomore psychology students. They start taking psychopathology, and they start thinking they have every mental health disorder that they can find under the DSM, with the current DSM-5. That's the diagnostics manual of mental disorders. It's sort of like the Bible of psychiatry and clinical psychology. But usually, when you first started learning psychopathology, you start thinking you have every mental disorder that you start learning about. So self-diagnosis is not recommended in psychology. I have suffered from clinical depression, but that's not through self-diagnosis. That was actually through getting clinically diagnosed. Because when I did try to self-diagnose myself, I thought I had actually ADHD, and dealing with the clinician I had at the time, they actually tried, I think, Ritalin, and there there's a 24-hour version of it, Concerta or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a extended form of it, and it didn't. And he was basically saying, "Well, if you have ADHD, you'll respond to it." So that was the way we looked at it, and we found out I didn't respond to it. Um, yeah, I think it's called Concerta, was the 24-hour form of the Ritalin. And you know at the time it was funny because people wanted the Ritalin to study in school. Like, people would just crush it up and use it to study. So I was ready to sell mine, but anyway. um, he was like, "Yeah, you don't display the common symptoms of someone with ADHD." Because I came to one of my appointments with him reading a really dry analytic philosophy book by this guy who's considered like one of the best philosophers today. And it was a really dry book on stuff that a person who can't focus would not be able to read. And when I was explaining to him this book, he was like, "Yeah, that doesn't sound like ADHD." We got down more to it and found out it was actual clinical depression, which can also has overlapping symptoms with ADHD, such as problems with uh, lack of focus or attention at times. So, but yeah, I haven't learned of you. I wouldn't recommend people trying to diagnose themselves with any personality disorders. And according to the new DSM-5, um, a lot of those personality disorders aren't considered disorders anymore. They're considered just a, a, a spectrum that goes from like personality eccentricities to full blown um, mental disorders. So the whole personality disorder has been pushed in the past with the DSM-5. Lelit Rathor says, "This is David Goggins." Hey, I'll take the compliment. That's an accomplished dude, but I'm not he. He's a former Navy SEAL and a ultra marathoner. I have yet to do a marathon. I've ran a half marathon, but that was only virtual, so I haven't ran one with people. But I think it still counts since I did the actual distance and beyond. But not David Goggins. Lucas Airsoft says, "Hey brother from Russia, what's up, Lucas? I think you were here before." Layla, you gotta stop. Don't flood the comments with that, please. Thief says, "Nah, it's a War Machine from the Avengers." I don't think I look like Don Cheadle either. I think I look better, and I'm like 20 years younger than than him as well. Watermelon guy. All right. If this is gonna get racist, I'm just gonna ban you. All right. So I'm gonna just time you clowns out. Like I said, if it's not about psychology, behavioral research, cognitive science, or just something that's in good in good faith, like I'm just gonna time you out or ban you completely. I don't have time for you dumb fucks. I don't come to your jobs kicking dicks out of your mouths. So J.A.C says, where I work, we have a lot of young professionals. At any given time, 12% of that workforce is on paid medical leave due to stress. I get it, but come on. Hey, my thing is, if you can milk the system, fuck it. If you can use that medical leave, why not? I mean, it's what they gave you, and it's part is look at it this way, that paid leave is part of your compensation, so why not take advantage of it? they, your job is going to take advantage of you, right? And if you get sick and can no longer work, they're just going to easily replace you anyway. So I you know fuck them. Sorry. That's how I see it. What's up, guy? Like, what are psychology questions? No, your English is it's fine. This is not your first language. I'm not going to fault someone if this is not your native language. I only fault Americans who can't speak English because they should know better. But yeah, psychological questions got like I said, anything dealing with any facet of the field of psychology, which is very wide. So we can talk about cognitive psychology, developmental psychology, um, psychopathology, personality psychology, social psychology, industrial organizational psychology, um, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, all those sorts of things. Psychology of language, it you know, the philosophy of psychology if you really want to go there. All right, Rampage is gone. I'm not here to give advice, Catherine. I'm sorry. You probably didn't come in when I said this from the beginning, but I'm not here to do any sort of armchair therapy. That's when I say psychological questions, I mean like more academic questions, not dealing with helping people. I would advise you, if you really need someone to talk to, that you make an appointment with your primary care doctor and they can refer you to a professional. GJC says, for medical leave, I understand work takes advantage of you, but now if you've been on a medical leave, you're deemed lazy and won't be promoted. The young ones are ruining it for people who truly benefit. But I would think they're ruining it for themselves. They're not ruining it for you. They're ruining their chances of promotion and getting raises. But for the folks who are in there in there, getting their grind, I'm pretty sure they're going to be noticed for their work. However, if you're in a job where they don't notice the people on their grind, nor do they care about the people who take advantage of paid medical leave, then that's probably a toxic workplace. But yeah, Catherine, like I said, if you're in in a stage of grieving about your pet that you lost, I'm sorry to hear that, first of all. But if it's that bad, I would say maybe talk with someone and don't feel. And that's another thing, guys. Don't feel stigma about needing to go see professional help when it comes to psychology, because just like the physical breaks down, the psychological breaks down. Like there's no stigma in going to the doctor if you have medical illnesses. It's the same thing with mental illnesses. We suffer both. All of us do. And it's, just a healthy mindset to look at health being a holistic thing, not just physical, but also psychological, social. Okay. That's not a psychological question, guy. Like I, there's not things that make me happy. Like that's, I think people, I think people are going to be fundamentally miserable if they're looking for happiness. You don't look for happiness. Happiness is a byproduct of achieving goals. So I don't look to be happy. I look to accomplish my goals and objectives. um, Bonnie says, "Hello everyone. Thank you for the bug out bag video. I updated what's in the backpack. Bug out. Oh, that's what's up. Great. By the way, Bonnie, my wife is gonna, well, she did a video, but the audios was really bad, so she's gonna edit it. But I'm gonna upload a video pretty soon when after she edits it, showing her camping backpack. So it's not gonna be a bug out bag, but there's a lot of there's a lot of overlap between like a camping backpacker with like a person who has a bug out backpack. So I'm gonna upload that so guys can check out what she does, because she's an accomplished backpacker. Like she has a travel group that she goes hiking and mountaineering with, and she's climbed with that group like the tallest mountain in the Philippines, Mount Apo. So she's now a certified mountaineer. So please be on the lookout for that. J.A.C says my dog died 2 months ago. Loved him, still miss him, but like everything else, life goes on. Yeah. God like says, do you believe men are being pressured by social to just tough up and keep going? By social pressure, I'm guessing you mean. Well, actually, no. I think it's the reverse. I don't know. I forget what country you're in, God like, but here in America, it's the it's kind of the opposite. Men are being feminized here in America, and it's having a social it's having social reverberations throughout society. Like men are being overwhelmingly feminized, and it's not. This is not just opinion. Like there's been measures of low testosterone levels in younger men as compared to the older generations. Like Gen Z has the lowest testosterone levels of all the current generations still living. And our public education has been often feminized, like basically punishing young male kids for being physically active, which kind of coincides with the fact that a lot of public education no longer has daily a daily requirement for physical education, which will kind of temper all that physical activity. um, oh, you're welcome, Bonnie. Like I said, look out for Mrs. Contrarian's video. Hopefully, I'll get that up by Thursday. Where our place is, it's always noisy, so it was hard to do it. And like when she first sent me, like when she first gave me the video to upload, like she tried to cover up all the background noise with through some editing that created like white noise but the white noise became a problem in itself because it's so loud to try to drown up all the background noise. Kyle says, you're right. I have read something of the same. In my eyes, it's concerning that the testosterone levels of the newer generation are that low. Yeah, and we see that's why these men are so effeminate. like I think they need to like sign up for a few MMA or boxing or Muay Thai lessons, learn how to get punched in the face and know that it's going to be okay. um, Start maybe do a few goddamn push-ups, something to boost their testosterone, because these, especially, and the worst ones, well, are the ones that's raised by just single moms. Like those are the ones you definitely need to worry about. Kronzek Film says I was going to donate, but I can't see a donate button. Well, first of all, what's up, Kronzek Films? Thank you for chiming in, because I don't think I've seen you on the live stream before. This isn't a super chat, so I don't have a donate button yet. I am very close to getting monetized. If you do want to donate, I do have a Cash App link in my description. There's a Cash App link. There is a Venmo link, or there's a buy me a coffee link, which is why I'm drinking iced coffee today. So you can use either one of those. Cash App is probably the quickest for me if you want to donate, but you can also, like I said, do buy me a coffee or Venmo, but Cash App works fine. And once I am monetized, I will start doing super chats. Once I have a super chat, people can donate directly. Bonnie says, "Yep, I've noticed the difference between my dad, brother, and males now. It said I'm 50 and can outlast young men in my work." Yeah, because I mean, you're a few years older than I am, but we had physical education every day when we were in school. Like it was funny. Like I think Jerry Seinfeld made the joke, like what was school like back then? Like you would go to like math, English, and then all of a sudden you're in gym in this Lord of the Flies situation where you're climbing ropes and dodging balls being thrown at your head, and then right afterwards you go to history class like, what the hell was that? So yeah, I think that's a problem too, because they're they're not gonna get physical, like they're not gonna do physical activity on their own unless they're into sports or something like that. But a lot of them aren't into sports like that. Um, then on top of that, kids aren't allowed to explore anymore. Like parents are considered neglectful if they let their kids go out and just roam around the neighborhood the way we used to when we were younger, right? Like my parents didn't know where I was when I was a kid. Like they didn't care. If anything, they told me I needed to be outside more. But you know, my little trusty dirt bike, I used to go all everywhere. Nowadays, like someone would think that kid is lost if they saw them just going out riding their bike all the way down to the other side of the neighborhood or something. God likes us how I imagine them saying gay things when they are being handled. Well, I mean, I don't want to, make fun of folks who are within the rainbow. I'm I'm talking about otherwise straight men who are just a who are just effeminate. If someone's actually that's their sexual orientation or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, from a psychological point of view, there's nothing. I mean, maybe from a religious or political point of view, we might have problems with people in the rainbow coalition. But from a psychological point of view, there's nothing wrong with them, except for the transformers. Like, there's definitely some mental disorders going on there. We can talk about that, but I don't really want to go there. God says something like, "Oh no, step bro, please don't. Or if you hit me, you're also gay." All right, I think you've been watching a little too much X videos, because the whole step bro. Yeah, you've been watching some adult content. Max Helen says YouTube takes 40% of the donations sent through here. Yeah, I know. That's why a lot of content creators, Max. By the way, what's up? A lot of content creators actually prefer you just to send it to that Cash App, or like buy me a coffee as well, because they get pretty much all their money, whereas YouTube is going to take a huge chunk through the super chat donations, but this isn't a super chat; it's just a regular vertical live stream. And I think I just saw a Cash App come through. Thank you. If that was you, Kronzak, I appreciate it a lot, sir. Thank you. 369 Dimension has a pondering emoji. By all means, ponder away, but type what you're thinking so I can know and respond. God says, I mean, it is okay, but it should have its limits. I saw the news a long time ago, and they are teaching 4 and 6 year olds nudity and genders. So yeah, that's an issue. I can't speak for everyone else, but I will be raising my kids in the Philippines and not here. If I were to raise kids here, but I'm not. But if I were, I would be sending them to a private school. Nasruddin is back. He said, "Hello, brother. Good day. Yesterday went crazy." Okay, what's up? Max Halen says, "Optimist pride." Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely not celebrating the Pride Month thing this uh, month. I don't know why they need a month, but um, God says Transformers robots in disguise. Yeah, that's our way of talking about them without actually saying it. Like a lot of us, we just call them. A lot of a few of my friends and I. Well, actually, I'm not gonna lie. We got this from Richie Mack from he's a passport bro who does content creation in Thailand, and he was talking about, and people were pointing out to him like there's a lot of lady boys in Thailand, so he started referring to them as Decepticons. So that's what we call them, Transformers or Decepticons, to distinguish them from uh, biological women. What's up, Bizwise? He says, or she. I'm not sure what your pref, uh, preference is, but I'm assuming you're a guy because of the name. But anyway, what role does trees play psychologically in the life of humans as well as in society's whole? Trees? Um, I don't know what you mean by which what role does trees play psychologically in the life of humans. I know, I know that the sort of field type landscape is considered very psychological pleasing because our ancestors came from like these little savannah like environments, if that's what you're asking. But I don't really know more than unless you want to be more specific. Kronzek says you seem chill as fuck, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate it. God says, "Oh, sorry. I'll keep it on the path of psychological questions." Yeah, please. Like, we're not talking about X videos here. J.A.C says, "I often hear this generation needs a war." I, I'm not gonna lie. I've said that a few times myself. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. I mean, in previous generations were tougher because they had to sign up and fight. Yeah. Um, like I said, I've made that joke a lot of times as well. It's the fact that we're getting to like the end stages of Rome where we're supposed to be like accepting of everything and everyone, and that's really not healthy for society. And we've known from history that once you get towards the end of advanced civilizations, they become very open-minded, let's say. So if we're to take lessons from previous societies, then some people look at some of this stuff going on as the end stages of America. But we'll see. I think during times of strife and or war, people start reverting back to their traditional roles because they work. Yes, my wife is Filipina, John. She she's in like a few of my videos. and she was supposed to do a congratulation video when I hit my 1,000 subs, but it's it's always problematic when she's trying to create content for me to upload because um our house is pretty hectic. We all my in-laws live in the house with us, and then on top of that, like every time she tried to do like a video like where she was gonna like walk around outside, it was like raining or something because it's like typhoon season over there right now. So hopefully this week. And also she's gonna do her camping backpack video, since I did a live stream on my bug out bag, and she enjoyed it, so she was like, I want to do one too. So I was like, all right, cool. I do have a sneak peek of her doing it, but it's just a snippet because it was the part before she got to edit it, because she's going to do a voiceover so it sounds a little bit more crisp. Nasruddin says, man, I invested in Berkshire stock. The Warren Buffett stock went down like crazy. So here's what I do and what a lot of other people do, Nasruddin. Again, I'm not a stockbroker or anything of the sort. So, caveat emptor. But I don't buy Berkshire stock either. What I do is Warren Buffett publicly publishes all the stocks that he's invested in through Berkshire Hathaway. And that's what I've invested in. I don't invest in Berkshire Hathaway itself. I invest in all the different companies that he's invested in through his Berkshire Hathaway company. And he publishes that, every year. So that's what I follow. So, but that's what you can do. And most of the stocks stocks that he does is blue chip stocks. So Max Hedlund says, Philippines is a great place to raise kids. They'll learn how to be appreciative of things since it's a third world country, but at the same time enjoy their childhood since the people are quite nice. Yeah, they're some of the friendliest. Year after year, they're rated the friendliest people on the face of the globe. Like, they're not always number one, but they're always within the top 5 or top 10 of friendliest people in the world. As far as it being a third world country, yes and no. They have their middle class is growing while ours is shrinking. Like, obviously middle class is a relative because it's relative to that particular country, but just the fact that they have a burgeoning middle class shows that they're growing. The Philippines was actually doing pretty well up up until the 70s, when you had the previous Marcos president. The son of the dictator is now the current president, but the original Marcos, who was president, became a dictator and kind of effed up their country. But the Philippines was once like called the Pearl of the Orient, up until the like late 60s, early 70s. So I predict they will be on a better, unless the current presidents mess it up. I think they're going to be doing well within the next 10 years. The Philippines right now is where South Korea was back in the early 80s. So bro says clean, says clean your room. Okay. These are just my stuff here. If you're not going to contribute to the conversation, you can see yourself out. Galaxy, so we can call a woman that transformed to a man a fire truck. I wouldn't, and I wouldn't say that to that person. Like, regardless of what I think about their orientation, preferences, and so forth, I'm not going to openly disrespect someone unless they do so to me. Like, if someone wants me to refer to them as whatever, I'll, out of courtesy, I'm going to do so. That doesn't mean that I'm going to genuinely think that that's what they are. But I wouldn't just uh, openly disrespect someone. I think that's rude. Max says, "I said, brother, you seem like a cool cat." I appreciate it, Max. Thank you a lot, sir. Bonnie says, "I love going out in nature, but I'm not a big fan of, but I'm not a fan of big cities." Depends on which cities. Like, some cities are better than others. I can tell you, I fell in love with Los Angeles when the first time I went there, and it's such a unique city. Like, I remember getting to the airport, and I was asking like one of the locals. I was like, "What should I do?" He's like, "Man, you can do whatever you want." I was like, all the way on one end, you have the beach. It's on the coast. On the all the way on the other end are mountains. So it's so. He was like, "You can do whatever." So I'm like, "Man, this is an awesome city." Like, all the way on one end, you can go hiking or up, hiking up the mountains. On the other end, you can hit, you can hit the beach. Then you got like, like Hollywood, Beverly Hills, um, go shopping on Rodeo Drive, all that sort of stuff. Where you can go into the hood and risk, take a risk for your life. But I fell in love with LA. San Francisco is cool too, but I would get tired of all the hills and stuff like that. That was sucking. I'm pretty sure they have some issues with their vehicles, like needing constant maintenance. But San Francisco was cool. New York was all right. Chicago, nah. I live right outside of Baltimore. Baltimore sucks, but it depends on what cities. Like, I like cities overseas though. Like I said, LA is the like one of the few American cities that I really love. But outside of America, I really enjoy some of the cities I've been to, like Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, uh, Manila, of course, Tokyo. So, um, but here in America, not so much. Galaxy says, "You know why you say that if we don't even know you, your room, or how you are, right?" Oh, you talking to what's the name? What's up, Eric? Eric is in the house. Max says, "You are correct about the similar patterns we have from the end stages of the Roman Empire." I think that's why so many people have been fascinated with studying about Rome recently, because they're seeing some analogies to the end stages of Roman Empire with our American experiment here. J.A.C says, "Tough times create strong men create easy times create weak men, and weak men create tough times." This is a cycle. Yeah. And then there's also the particular Japanese proverb that I like. "I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." So that's my thing. Maxwell says, "Where do you live, man?" I live in suburbs of Baltimore. But anyway, guys, can we let's get back to the psychology questions. Like I said, got a few so far. Gotta go for a second. No, do you? Go ahead. You're good. 369 dimensions. I don't even know what that emoji is. Um, Eric de Guapo says it's a little more complex than that. Sometimes strong men make bad decisions. The Spartan Empire only lasted about 400-ish years. Their society only functioned if they had a large amount of slaves. True. And they had a long war with Athens. I think that was the Peloponnesian War. Um, Aside of that, most people don't realize, like, everyone thinks of Socrates as this stuffy philosophy guy who started basically Western philosophy as we know it today, and which also means Western civilization. Socrates was also he was actually a war hero. He was like a Greek Rambo. Like, they came to him for military strategy advice as well, not just philosophy. He fought. He was a war hero in the Peloponnesian Wars. Um, like decorated, like a decorated war hero, like at least like 2 or 3 times. And one of the people who writes about him was someone he saved in the war. So that's why he's one of Socrates' most loyal friends in the Plato writings. Even at the very end, when they talk about the trial and death of Socrates, he was one of those people there at the end who cried seeing this guy die. So he was a war hero. So the intellect and the physical sometimes go hand in hand. Bonnie says, I've seen the Philippines videos online. Doesn't look third world. Many parts of the U.S. does currently, though. Yeah, I mean, they had their. Don't get me wrong. Philippines definitely has its rough parts. Like, there's a whole village that's built within a trash dump. So there's some bad parts, but then there's some really nice places like BGC, parts of Makati, Taguig, um, and other areas which are really nice. They still have thriving malls. If you guys want to check it out, I actually have a video that me and my wife did. I did. So I walked around a mall here, which we would consider like a ghost mall. It's like pretty much dead. Security Square Mall in Baltimore. And then I had her go walk around a mall close to our house in Bulacan. Bulacan is actually where that Filipino woman just won the Filipino Miss Universe. She's a half black, half Filipino woman. She's from Bulacan, where we have a house. Um, so she walked around that mall, and it wasn't even on the weekend, and it was like still an active, thriving mall. So yeah, it's definitely bad, like poverty there. Like I've had street kids come up to me and ask me for my leftovers. Um, People begging on the streets and stuff like that. And when people are poor and homeless in Southeast Asia, they're really poor and destitute. Unlike here, America is the only place where you'll see like poor and homeless people who are morbidly obese. They wish they could be morbidly obese and be homeless and destitute out there. David Sanchez, what year were you in LA? Last time I was there was it 2019? No, 2019, I think 2018, something like that. Because I went to LA and San Francisco and Chicago, and I know I went to LA twice. So I think the last time was 2019. Los Angeles is in a rough spot right now. Same with Frisco. Yeah, that's true. I remember one of my Uber drivers showing me where the wildfires were uh, at one time. I think this was in 2018 though, um, not 2019. I think in 2018, that's when they were still having the wildfires, and he showed me where it had burned through the highway, and he was telling me when he was driving one time, like it was so bad, like traffic was so bad that people were just taking their chances and driving their vehicle through the fire, through the blaze, and instead of trying to reroute and go another way, because that was the only way they could get to work, which was crazy. Then I still saw places where it was still charred and still like simmering from the wildfire. So yeah, LA, it has its issues. I'm just saying, I just fell in love with like the city because I think when you're from the East Coast, I think most people from the Northeast kind of fall in love with LA because it's so different than being in places here, like living in places like Baltimore and Philly. Max says history is so fascinating. I'm more interested in it than predicting the future. Like Alex says, I'm back again, but I'm probably gonna go now. I'm gonna watch a movie and head to bed. Yeah, go ahead. I appreciate you hanging in there with us, but go do your thing. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Easton said, "Who the f is keep copying me?" I don't know. So guys, any psychological questions, comments? Again, like I said, I'm not a professor, but I am a psychology nerd since I've done a little bit of grad school work in it. Um, but I can't diagnose your problems if that's what you want. But if we can talk about psychological questions of many sorts that are out there, like, I mean, there's all sorts of things like talking about race, IQ, relationships, child development, business, organization, stuff like that. J.A.C says, "What's your thoughts on the psychology of those living in a country like Cuba?" Well, I don't know. That's a little too broad. I haven't met any Cubans or been to Cuba yet, so I couldn't say. If you're talking about like living within a communist regime, I don't know. Bonnie says LA and California were nice in the 1980s. Unfortunately, I haven't gone there back in the 80s, which I wish I could have went to Disneyland back in the 80s or somewhere else nice, but I didn't go there until like the late 2010s, so it was fun. I remember going to Hollywood's, walking down the boardwalk of fame, going to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. I had to do that. I had to go to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, and I went to the Hollywood one, but I'm not sure which is the original Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. I thought it was the one in Hollywood. That's why I went there, because I didn't want to go to the one in Inglewood, because I heard Inglewood is sort of the hood, and you know street smarts 101 is you don't go into an unfamiliar hood unless you know people there. So I didn't know if wanted to go up into Inglewood to check out Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. Plus, I heard that the one in Inglewood wasn't the original Roscoe's. I don't know which one is, but I thought it was the one in Hollywood. Um, Max says lunch is almost over for me, brother. Catch you on the next one. No problem at all. I appreciate you coming in, Max. I usually do live streams usually around this time and sometimes later in the evening. So, you can check out the ones in the evening too, which is, for most of us after work, usually like sometime after 6 p.m. So I appreciate it, Max. Thank you again, brother. Eric says the psychology question, thoughts on ADHD. I have listened to lectures recently where they made the case that ADHD is the result of not developing effective trauma and stress coping mechanisms. That may be part of it, but here's the thing: almost all psychiatric disorders have a neurobiological component, and that might be discomforting for some people to realize that a lot of psychiatric disorders are, you know, at root biological. Um, just the hardware shapes the software. So a lot of folks who may have ADHD may have, or any other psychiatric disorders, may have a family history of mental health problems. Um, so there could be a genetic component to it, and then something might trigger it. Also, there are factors while someone is still there are factors like when women are pregnant that can affect kids that create those sort of problems. Another thing, which is something heavily recommended by psychiatrists, psychologists, and pediatricians, is to stop letting kids use devices or be in front of TV screens and monitors before the age of 6, because their brain is still literally wiring. That's when your brain is the most plastic, and having them glued to the TV or playing with a tablet or whatever under the age of 6 is going to cause them attentional problems later on in life. So I would highly advise people who have children or plan on having children, don't let them rot their brains in front of the TV or on a tablet or computer or smartphone before the age of 6, because it will cause long-term attentional and focus problems. J.A.C says, "That's where any grade 1 kid who doesn't like school is deemed ADD or ADHD. It can be overdiagnosed, and like I said, I don't know if you were here when I first said that early on in the stream, but one of the problems is when you don't have physical education in school, but you expect young male kids to sit for 8 hours a day, like that's a little unreasonable. And I was pointing to the fact that that's some of the feminization of public education. Like kids need to go out, they need to, you know, we got to curb all of that energy we had because one, we had gym every day, and two, we had recess. Between gym and recess, we got to get out all that energy so that we could focus while we were sitting in class. Then we even had other things to do, like like going to assemblies, which was cool, and having art and music classes. A lot of that stuff has been cut out of public education, especially in the lower income neighborhoods where they want to teach to the they want to teach strictly to the test and just concentrate on math, English, science, but they need those other outlets to be a well-rounded student and to be able to be attentive. And taking out daily physical education is, I think, is detrimental to young male students. That's why that's part of the reason why they're falling behind their female students. Plus, there's not as much resources given and attention given to male students to make sure that they perform to their fullest capabilities, unless you're sending them to a private school. Okay, we got another Eric in the house, Eric Alvarado. He says, by biological, you mean a genetic component is the main catalyst for this. So it's complicated. A lot of us for favor what's called the interactionist approach, which is both the interactions of both nature and nurture. But most, I think most people um, who deal with mental health disorders recognize that there's a biological component to all mental health disorders, which is why sometimes we just refer to them as neural behavior disorders. Um, so like I said, you'll see someone with schizophrenia who that there's usually a genetic component to that. People who have autism, there's a genetic component to that. Depression, and so on. So yeah, so what happens is this may not be, even if it runs in families, it not everyone may end up expressing it, because sometimes it takes uh, a confluence of factors for those disorders to manifest, whether it can be some sort of triggering event in their life, their childhood, or other factors. So Eric DeGuapo says, do you think it's more effective to train someone to develop coping mechanisms over the use of medications? It depends on the disorder and the severity. So we know that cognitive behavioral therapy for milder problems can be as effective or more effective than psychotropic medication sometimes. But when you're talking about severe mental illness, which is what we refer to as psychopathy, um, so there used to be this old distinction. It's still used within a psychological community, but not when talking to outside groups. Like it's they're considered sort of like um, terms really not used professionally anymore. But there used to be a distinction between neurotics and psychotics, and there was even an old psychological joke that neurotics are afraid to come outside while psychotics build castles in the sky. uh, so people who would be deemed neurotic or have milder mental illness usually can benefit from just psychotherapy. Usually cognitive behavioral therapy is like really the only one that has the strongest evidence of working as well as medication. But when you're talking about severe mental disorders, there has to be medication. There's no evidence that psychotherapy alone can help people with severe mental disorders. And some of them might even need to use some mild electroshock therapy. And I don't mean the kind like from one flew to cuckoo's nest when they like will just that was extreme. But no, there's a milder form of electroshock therapy now that is sometimes used for severe disorders like severe depression, because severe depression can't even be treated lots of times with medication. Sometimes they might benefit from that mild electro shock therapy. um, and in the even more extreme cases, there have been like partial lobotomies and stuff like that. But we're talking about the extreme here. But like I said, if you look at a mental health disorder along a spectrum, the people on the milder to moderate end can probably benefit just through uh, talk therapy, whereas those on the more in the moderate to severe end are probably going to need medication and um, maybe other medical treatments to deal with their problems. Um, Bonnie says it's bipolar genetic and you pass it on to your children. Runs in my family. So yeah, bipolar disorder is genetic. It's part of the spectrum uh, of depression. And there's different types of bipolar disorder. Now, just because someone has bipolar disorder in your family doesn't mean other people will get it, but it means they're more likely to suffer from other depressive disorders. Like I said, bipolar is just one of many depressive disorders within that spectrum. So another person may not have bipolar disorder. They can they might manifest some other sort of depressive disorder. Also, bipolar kind of crosses with both depression and the psychotic disorders like the schizophrenic spectrum. So someone with bipolar, depending on what type of bipolar, they may be at risk for some of the psychotic disorders like um, along the schizophrenia spectrum, because there's something related to bipolar disorder called schizoaffective disorder. So, like I said, just because it runs in the family doesn't mean you're going to pass it on to your children. It's not a, it's not, it doesn't have that sort of one-to-one correspondence. It just means that it is genetic and it may be expressed in some family members. So, for instance, I have PKU, which is a genetic metabolic disorder, and I can only have it if both parents are carriers of it. So, for if both parents have carried the the uh, the uh, the genetic thing for PKU phenylketonuria, that means their child will have a 1 in 4 chance of having phenylketonuria or PKU. Like again, both of my parents carry it, but neither one of them have PKU. I have PKU. None of my siblings have it, but they are all carriers. So if you look at it that way, then maybe you understand. GJC says kids crave the immediate gratification these days. My kids don't understand commercials because they skip on YouTube. I've taught them to enjoy movies instead of climax clips online. Yeah, I think again a part of that is due to letting them spend too much time on devices. That's why you see in China they're limiting how long kids can play video games and stuff like that, because they see it as being the stupid the I'm making up a word here, but the stupidification of their youth. So where the parents aren't making the effort to do so, the CCP in China has actually stepped in and said they can only have like 1 hour of video gaming per day or something like that. So I think that's what destroys a lot of their attentional resources is, like I said, too much time spent using digital devices. Um, Eric Everardo says, I believe bipolar, along with a lot of neurological, psychiatric disorders and conditions, are genetic. Many things within our body are. Yeah, but like I said, they interact with other factors that are both social, psychological, and so forth. So that's why we look at it from a biological, psychological, social interaction. Um, Eric says a lot of psychologists are poorly trained. I have very little faith in most psychologists. So, um, especially right now with the influx of them being ideologues. Well, so let's make a distinction. When you're talking about psychologists, you're talking about clinical psychologists. Scientific psychologists and clinical psychologists are like two different things completely. A lot of scientific psychologists or academic psychologists don't think very much of the clinical and counseling field. Um, there is the it, at least the good thing about that is nowadays you can request people based on their the type of training they receive. So if you want someone who's strictly going to stick to like a cognitive um like a cognitive therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, you can do that. Someone who wants some sort of traditional psychodynamic therapy can go for that. That's Freudian therapy. And it can even go for the classical psychoanalysis, even though that's not covered by, I don't think, anyone's medical care. You're paying out of pocket for psychoanalysis, and it's really it. I don't really think it. There's no evidence that it helps because psychoanalysis and psychodynamic therapy in general are good in giving people insight into their problems and stuff like that. But there's no evidence that getting insight into your problems actually helps treat your overall disorders. So um, they're not poorly trained because, like I said, it depends. Um, so for like clinical psychologists, they have to be APA or APS board certified and licensed. But how it happens is generally with a lot of managed care or HMOs is that they go for the lowest cost. So your when you go to these professional psychologists, the duties are divided up to make it cheaper for managed care. So you'll you'll probably first go to a clinical psychologist who will just do the testing, right? And then you'll be sent over to a psychiatrist to get your psychiatric medication if you need it, and then they'll have a master's level clinical social worker actually do the therapy. And I think that sort of approach, even though it's cost effective for managed care, may not be the best for the client. So oh, we got third Eric Primo. What's up, Primo? Carell says, saying hi when I stay long. Hope you're good and well. I am. Thank you, Carell. Thanks for stopping by. Eric Everard says, let me preach this, please, to all. If a neural psych condition is diagnosed by any doctor, please request a medication sensitivity test be done before any medications are started. Well, they're supposed to do their due diligence as far as knowing, what sort of medication that you should or shouldn't be on based on it also relies on people being honest with their primary care doctors. They need to know, are you allergic to certain things? Have you reacted to certain sort of medications and so forth? People aren't always forthcoming with their doctors, which ends up being, you know, being a disservice to them. So you have to be forthright with your primary care doctors so that they and the mental health clinicians going in know how to properly treat you, because they can't know something if you don't already have it in your medical history. Eric says if it gives you a better indication of where your markers are for certain drugs or meds, what your brain can tolerate to not worsen your conditions. Eric DeGuap says, "Hi, the Eric's fled this channel where this is there's what around 12 of us now." So I think it's about four of you guys now. I mean, not in this current stream, but it's about four of you. We need one more to make it five. It's four of you currently, but we need a fifth one. So I think we only have four total. But yeah, so I don't want to like again, guys. I'm not a diagnostician, so I'm not going to try to analyze people's mental health issues. I would just say that a lot of us look at it from an interactionist approach between nature and nurture, and also like knowing from like fields like behavioral genetics, we know that all human traits are partly hereditary, which includes mental illness. So that's always going to be a big part of how we look at the root causes of these problems and how to treat them. But we don't have to just talk about psychopathology. Like most of psychology actually is more interested in how healthy, normal people behave, not just those who are suffering, from illness and suffering. I think the psychopathology is important because it kind of shows you what is considered abnormal. But oh snap, guys, I'm about to go pretty soon. I'm supposed to hit the gym. But with any other psychological comments or questions, we can continue this in the evening. But about to hit the gym and so forth. But like I said, I don't want to just talk on psychopathology. I think most people who don't know much about psychology only think about clinical psychology and psychopathology, and it encompasses way more than just dealing with abnormal behavior. Like I said, dealing with abnormal behavior is just one facet of psychology. Like I said, there's social psychology, personality psychology, cognitive psychology, developmental psychology, industrial organizational psychology, psychology of language. Um, I think I said developmental psychology, um, and in a bunch of subfields within those larger fields. So we can talk about all those other things as well. But if not, I'm gonna get going because I do need to hit the gym and plus I know that I get a heavier crowd in the evening than in the afternoon. I just wanted to make up for yesterday since I wasn't able to live stream. So and I may be getting comments and I can't see them because I'm not seeing my current number of people in the stream. That usually indicates that it's about to reconnect. I notice once I start seeing the three dots up above, that means that I'm not well connected with the stream. So I'm gonna call it a day, guys. Plus, I do have to run to the uh, to the laboratory. So let me get out of here. Again, we can continue this evening, guys, because I think, like I said, I lost the connection with the comment section. So I'm gonna just end it here. I appreciate everyone who came in. Thank you for the donations, by the way, for the folks who just left me a few donations on Cash App. I appreciate it a lot. Um, I will be back this evening and we could talk about this topic or something else. And this will be uploaded as soon as I end this. Again, guys, I'm sorry that I lost connection, but that's just the nature of doing live streams sometimes, especially the vertical. But I appreciate it.